This podcast is brought to you by Taaffes Bar. Taaffes Bar are Galway's #1 GA pub in the heart of the Latin Quarter with live Irish music twice a day.
So joined now by Barry Cullinane for another edition of the Galway Senior and Intermediate Football Championship Power Rankings. Barry, I'd say it was a difficult task this week, particularly senior as well.
Yeah, it was crazy, Paul, to be honest. We said it at the start, maybe the top three teams are possibly, relatively straightforward to pick. Maybe the bottom one or two, maybe straightish forward to pick. But like that group then in the middle is just, it's a free for all. And so many teams beating so many teams. And, again, we'll take Killererin as an example, had lost their opening couple of games, but yet would still have felt they were in the right chance, and they had played maybe some of the harder teams and then turned around and beat Killererin, who had been going well and playing good football. So I think the nature of the competition is really, really good, and by my reckoning, and you're far more adept at this sort of things, I think there's only two teams actually out of the competition going into the final weekend, and that's brilliant for the competition's integrity itself and for the structure of it. So I think no one can complain too much, and I think everyone is going to be really looking forward to what will be a hugely intriguing final weekend in the senior football championship.
Yeah, so just here we have from 17 to 10. So Spittle, they've dropped down one place and are now in bottom place in 17 to 10. And Evander Letchermore, after the really impressive performance against Cullinane, are gone up one place. Killererin then only registered 4 points at the weekend, so they're in 15th. Toonstairs, which will be absolutely devastated about the way that game ended yesterday evening in Toon Stadium, where they lost to Dunmore by the last kick of the game. They're down 6 places into 14th. Down will still be wondering how they lost that game to Milltown. They're in 13th, down 1 place. Michael's with a heavy enough defeat against Galway, down 3 places and into 12th. 11th, as I mentioned, Dunmore's victory over Toon, really, really impressive. They're up to 3 places, and they probably feel now that getting into the knockout stages is a real possibility. And Killererin with a disappointing defeat to their neighbours, Cullinane. They're down 4 places. Are we still along the lines of 15, 16 and 17 are the relegation candidates at the minute?
Yeah, excuse me, it looks that way, Paul, doesn't it? There's nothing to suggest that, Cardiff-Strand, like they're still in with a live chance of actually progressing. They have is it Cullinane in their last game? Like if they were to win that, it puts them on 4 points, and depending on Killererin, how they get on against Sultan and Nakara, and Barna getting on against Corfin, then they're still in with a realistic chance as well, even though they're at the bottom of the table. But for me, just looking at the games, if you take them all on their respective merits, the three teams that are struggling the most, just to put scores on the board more so than anything, is Cardiff-Strand. And I'll let Moore deserve huge credit. Again, battled back like they did in their first game against Milltown. They were well down, but they battled back, didn't give up the fight, but just came up short. And that game between themselves and Spittle next weekend will be, or in the last round, will be very, very intriguing as well. In terms of that bottom half of the table, like Dunmore, I'd have to put hands up. I thought with the loss of Matthew Reddington would be a real disaster for them this year. But like the draw, they started off okay against Mount Ballymile or against St. Michael's. That draw against Mount Ballymile was just a brilliant result for them. And again, they conceded 10 points. Okay, they only scored 11, but they'll be delighted with that win, and that puts them right in with a shot. Now, unfortunately for them, St. Michael's are probably still favourites to come out of that group, in that if you look at it, like Galway played Dunmore in that last game. Galway will probably still, they'll still be favourites for that. So again, if you're looking at it that way, that means St. Michael's won't move. We know they're finished now. They won't move past. They won't move past 3 points. So if Dunmore McHale stay on 3 points and Tuam Stars don't get to 3 points, then it just gets to a head-to-head between St. Michael's and Dunmore, and unfortunately St. Michael's will edge it on that one. So I think although they're finished and they've only ended up on 3 points with a -11 score difference at the moment, you would have to say St. Michael's are probably the favourites to get third position in that group.
Yeah, we talked.
And then I'll keep going on that while I'm on a roll, Paul. Like the Tuam Stars at 14th. Like, do I think Tuam Stars are 14th overall team in Galway? Probably not. But you have to say that their chances of getting out of the group now look like they're fairly slim. They're going to have to get a result against Mountbellew-Mylock, and like Mountbellew-Mylock will know that to top the group, which is what they'll want to do, they need to get a result there, because if Claregalway beat St. Michael's, then they would go top. So, Tuam look like they're under pressure, and it's probably the same for Annadown. Fortunately for them, that result at the weekend, in all, you would have to say, if you're judging everything on paper, probably ends their chances, because they would have to go and get a result against Cullinane.
Are Tuam and Annadown the two teams that have had the biggest appointments of season so far?
Say that again, Paul. Sorry.
Are Tuam and Annadown the two teams that are underachieved so far this
Yeah,
season?
I certainly think Tuam, and I wouldn't take any satisfaction out of that. Like, I had them 5th.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
The first day, like, so, and I saw them, as I said, against Claregalway in the league. I thought they were really good, and going into that first 20 minutes against Claregalway, they weren't playing the first weekend. I said, geez, these lads are absolutely flying, and their season has literally collapsed since then. They got their draw against St. Michael's. That result yesterday was really, really poor on their behalf, and they'd be really disappointed with how the year has gone. Annadown, like, they came into the championship with a bit of a cloud over them, didn't they, Paul? Like, there was, issues with management, and Alan Glynn came in late, and I think they, if they don't get out of the group, it won't be a case of, you have some teams won't get out of their groups and they'll be really disappointed with how they played. I think Annadown overall at times played well. Like, I think that 17 wides against Milltown yesterday. So, like, that tells a story in itself of possession and shots at goal, and it's a conversion thing. So I think if Annadown don't get out of the group, they have lots to work on, and they'll be saying, look, we actually play quite well. I think Tuam will be a different scenario.
St. Michael's are 12th and they're down 3 places. This is actually where they've started. So do you have an answer now for some of the St. Michael's backlash you got?
I'm sure I'll get it again, but I thought they were poor against Claregalway yesterday. To be honest, I thought they kicked, they hit 1-1. They hit 1-1 against Mountbellew-Mylock, which wasn't great scoring either. And in saying that, they'll probably, if I was to take it at face value, they'll probably come out of the group. But, like, they have a scoring difference of -11. So, like, Tuam have a scoring difference of -3. Dunmore McHale have a scoring difference of -2. So St. Michael's just, they're scoring they're scoring okay. They've kicked 45 points, but they've conceded 56 points. Like, that's a lot. It's the most anyone has conceded in the group. So yeah, I think that they'll still, to me, it looks like they'll still come out of the group. But I would say their performance against Mountbellew-Mylock and their performance against Claregalway won't please Colin Tumman and his management team.
Dunmore, I presume, are the team that have had the biggest rise this year across the senior championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, like, at the start of the year, I kind of had them, I would, under pressure, or would have thought they could be under a bit of pressure in terms of survival. But, and as I said, particularly on the back of that Matthew Reddington loss. But I am, hugely impressed. And again, just their battling qualities against Tuam, never say die, good footballing ability, good structure at the back, caught teams on the break and loads of pace. And yeah, absolutely. You'd be hats off to them. They've had a brilliant first season back up into the senior ranks.
Who's Dread then? They're down 4 places and into 10 just before we move into the top half. I presume they're one of these teams that kind of fall into the disappointing category.
Yeah, like they are. Yeah, for one to they are. I expected a little bit more, and I thought they'd actually been going. They've been going okay, and now they're still in with a really good shot at coming out of the group. And if they can beat Salty Knocknacara, who you would have to say, if we're talking about Tumen and a down in terms of disappointments this year, they would be right up there as well. And the thing that Uachtarard will be saying is they beat Salty Knocknacara, that would put them on 5 points. And if Killererin were to beat Carlostrand, that puts Salty Knocknacara into a relegation battle. So like that's not what they would have expected to be from last year's championship and how well they played in the county final and
What's happened there?
I don't actually know. No, I know injuries. Look, injuries have had their toll. I didn't see their team yesterday against Barnes. I'm not sure who was back or who wasn't back, but
Tom was back, so.
Yeah, and Rob Finnerty was very good. Tom, just didn't get a run, and you'd have to say, like Carl Sweeney, I said that to you last week. Like for me, if you're looking at the Galway senior panelist to go and put his hands up and really perform, he has done it. He's been excellent. There just has been a lack of energy about them, and that's very, very hard to rectify, and it's very hard to find. But they're going to go into this last championship match, and they're going to have to find it from someplace.
Yeah, so we've touched on Salthill there. They're down 4 places and into 8th. We didn't really touch on Cullinane. They're obviously up 1 place and into 9th. A terrific 8-point victory for them at the weekend.
Yeah, and I've got enough stick on this thing, so I hope I get a bit of credit. I've been touting Cullinane to come good at some stage. I think they're a good team, and we're kind of unlucky in that they did a couple of the harder games. Earlier on in the championship. So they've Carlostrand, they'll be saying, right, we can get to 5 points if we get over Carlostrand, which you'd say they'd have to be favourites to do so. Then the only result that could kind of scupper their chances is like a Salthill Uachtarard draw and Barnet to get a result. So Cullinane look like if they can get to 5 points, that they have a right good chance of making a playoff.
Barnet in 7th, and if you look at their previous results, they obviously drew against Cullinane, lost to Carlostrand, drew with Uachtarard. They're up 6 places and in 7th, but you're really wondering when they're in 7th, what if one of those draws was a victory?
Or the Carlostrand game.
Yeah.
That's the one that kind of caught them, isn't it? They, if they had got that result, they'd be in 6 points and probably no catching them in that second spot. So, I think again, maybe a team that I didn't give enough credit to. They did maybe read too much into that defeat to Carlostrand. I think that was just one that really caught them on the hop. But they battled back, and I think was it the same score? The same score yesterday as it was in the league final against Salthill, or thereabouts.
It was close. It was 9-8, and then it was 6-5 in the league final.
Yeah. So hard. There weren't two classics by any stretch of the imagination, but that's where they find themselves. They're now second, and they go into the last game. I think they've Currafin in the last game, don't they? Yeah. So they've Currafin in the last one, knowing that will 4 points be enough? You just don't know, but if results go their way, it will be. But unfortunately, if results don't, then they'll find themselves where they were +6 this weekend. They could be minus a couple of spots the following week.
James is up 5 places. Milltown up 2 places. They play each other. Going by the weekend, it's a terrific result for Milltown, and this might get me slated a bit, but I don't think Milltown deserve to be in 5th.
Think they should be higher up, is it?
No, I think there should be
I'm
lower.
joking, I'm joking, I'm joking, I'm joking. Yeah, but you have to say, like, I saw the game against my Cullen, and they actually played some good football and battled really really hard when the chips were down and came back, and you know, yeah, maybe I suppose the question you have to ask then is who deserves to be ahead of them? And I can see where you're coming from, and that, yeah, maybe St. James's deserve to be ahead of them, but they're both on 6 points. Yeah, St. James's have a better scoring difference. Um, so yeah, you could definitely argue the toss to say St. James's should be ahead of them. Would Barna be ahead of them? I don't know. You call that one out, Paul. Put your
Yeah, no, it's just from what I've seen at the weekend, 17 wides and a downgrade chance after chance, winning the majority of kickouts. As for Milltown there now, but um, yeah, just
I know, I agree with you. I 100%
mm,
agree with you, and that's why I said like Anna Down are well down the table, but I don't know should they be. But you have to factor into the account that the reality is their chances of getting out of the group now are
yeah,
very limited. So like, how
yeah,
would it be fair of me to say, yeah, put Anna Down into sixth, but deep down I know that they're not the well, fair play to them. They could go. Well, see, the problem Anna Down have as well is that if they beat Moyculla and push them to 6 points, and St James's or Milltown, one of them get a result, both of them have beaten Anna Down, so they're out anyway.
yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? So it'd be very difficult for me to say, yeah, put Anna Down into the top 8, 7, when the reality is outside, they need to beat Moyculla and hope that actually, even looking at it, Anna Down are out,
yeah,
aren't they?
yeah. That's what it looks like at the
Yeah.
minute now.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and a down the road, because if they win, that brings them to 6 points. But if St James's and Milltown draw, that brings both of them to 7. If Milltown or James's win, that brings one of them to 8, leaves the other one on 6. But both of them would have a head-to-head advantage over Annadown. So to me, unless I'm reading something
yeah,
completely wrong, Annadown are gone. So how could you have them up at 6th, 7th, or 8th?
yeah. No, I think Andy Down deserve their position where they are, and but it's not me trying to get them up places now or anything. I hope no one's thinking that. But yeah, we mentioned there, so Milltown fifth, they're up 2 places. James is sixth, up 5 places. They play each other in the final round, and ultimately that is probably going to decide the highest second place team who's going to be in the bowl with all the first place teams at the minute, just with the way the groups are looking. Your own club, Clare Galway, you mentioned you were fed up of hearing the words potential with them at the start of this power rankings. You must be happy now with the way things are going.
They deserve huge credit. And maybe I was a bit harsh on them after Mount Bellew, and maybe it says more about where Mount Bellew and Malach are than where Clare Galway are. But they've reacted really really well. And even as I said, the first 20 minutes against Tuam, they were under a lot of pressure. They weren't going that well. Um, but they found a way to win, and you have to say the performance against a team that had beaten them in last year's championship was really really good. And John Fitzmaurice and his management team will be absolutely delighted, and they'll be going into the Dunmore game knowing that if they perform like they did in the second half against Tuam, or for probably 50 out of the 60 minutes yesterday, then Dunmore, although they've been going really well too, then you'd have to say Clare Galway would be strong favourites for that one. Now, Dunmore will pose a different challenge. They're defensive enough, and they get loads of bodies behind the ball. So Clare Galway are going to have to try and find a way maybe of kicking scores from distance, which they haven't been doing an awful lot. They do get a lot of scores kind of from closer to goal. But overall, yeah, you'd have to be really, really happy with how they've reacted. Show great mettle, well done to management, and you'd have to say that.
Yesterday bigger? Sorry, just to go in there,
No,
but just losing Jack Lynn to injury and still getting a result.
yeah, absolutely, and that's the more of these sort of results they can get, where they're in a stressed position, the better. And like they've loads of young footballers, loads of pace. It's just that experience, and like even a generational experience. And that might sound a bit strange, but like if you look at the Corofin team that was really successful, they're really really successful. Loads of their dads had played and won for Corofin. if you look at the Mount Ballymalock team that's there now, loads of their dads have played and won for Mount Ballymalock. So it's a generational success in these clubs that there just isn't in Claregalway. And that can be a hindrance as well, or not a hindrance, but it's just not, they're trying to build their own history. And, you have to say hats off to them. I thought they were very, very good yesterday, and, onwards and upwards. And like, they're in fourth. I think there's a realistic, or it's an easy enough argument to make that they're in the top 4 teams outside of.
Are they in that category now with Montpellier, Curvins?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
No, not yet. I haven't been overly impressed with Corofin, but I think they're still a bit ahead of them. And what Claregalway need, we could be here in 2 weeks, Paul, saying, Jesus, what happened to Claregalway? But what Claregalway need is a big win over one of these big teams that arrived rattle at Mike Cullen last year, and they'll be saying, look, at some stage we're going to have to go and beat the Mike Cullen, the Mount Ballymalock, or the Corofin. And if they can do that, then we put them in the talk about being in the top 3. But at the moment, I'd say they're a bit ahead of the pack, a bit ahead of everyone else in the chasing pack, but there's a hair's breadth between an awful lot of these teams.
And just to finish on the senior, them 3 are still kind of in their own category for you.
Yeah, look, Mike Cullen got a bit of a scare. They still put up a big score at the weekend. Mount Ballymalock didn't play. Corofin didn't play.
Corofin played Carlstrand 217.
Carlstrand, yeah. Sorry, Corofin played Carlstrand. Yes. Could you read an awful lot into that one? Probably not. What Carlstrand was, 4 points Carlstrand hit. So
yeah, they only got 2 or 3 from playing the first half. Corofin out of their 7. 2. So
yeah, and just the Jason Leonard and the Ian Burke thing we're not seeing the relevance of that at the moment because they haven't been tested. A test will come in quarter-final time, and they could get a tough draw, and that's when you'll see where exactly Corofin are. I think at the moment they were just a bit ahead of everyone in that group. But the real test for them will come in the quarter-final. But yeah, no, I don't think any change to the top 3. I think Claregalway just about can justify that place in number 4th.
On to the intermediate then. Is Williamstown a place you're banned from now as well?
No, they cancelled Williamstown now as well. I just don't, in fairness, everyone's absolutely entitled to fight their corner for their own club. Williamstown, I'm not exactly sure where I had them in the first power rankings, but I know it certainly wasn't down at the bottom, or it wasn't last or wherever. But they've done really well, and you'd have to say the intermediate group we know now, or the intermediate championship we know now exactly where that is, and the 4 teams at the bottom. I'm not sure, is it 2 teams or 1 team that gets relegated from intermediate?
2, because the seniors going to 16, so 2 go down from intermediate.
Yes, that means that
the semi-finals are really 2 relegation finals.
Yeah, so that means that, and this isn't being disrespectful to Corofin B team, but if they go down, Corofin obviously still have a senior team. But what you'd be saying is that if it was, hypothetically, I'm not saying it will or won't, if it was Corofin, you're then saying Killererin, Clonberne, and Caharua or Killererin are going to be junior, and that's a big fall for either of those teams. And on the flip side of that, if Corofin survive that relegation playoff, it means that 2 of Killererin, Clonberne, and Caharua or Killererin are going to be junior, and that's not good for Galway football. I'd put my hand on heart and say that. And then, as I said, so you have to have them 4 teams at the bottom, and then you fill the other 12 spaces back up from there.
Killererin is the most kind of standout thing at 16th, down 3 places at the minute. People probably have been aware of the downfall when you consider to what it was maybe in 2010 to now. There probably has been indications, but as you said, that's a worrying thing.
Yeah, it's worrying, and even just the whole nature of it. They play Killererin, Clonberne now, and this, you could say, a relegation playoff, and those clubs are joined up at underage level. That's just not nice. It's not a nice situation for anyone to be in, and unfortunately, it's I suppose it's a geographical thing. They don't have a huge parish, and unfortunately just don't have the playing resources that they had that number of years ago, where they had families, and obviously the Joyces and the Kanes and the Hugheses and all these sort of families, and just at the moment they're just lacking that playing resource to keep them competitive at this level.
Carrow as well, coming from senior down this year into 14th is probably out of all the senior and intermediate power rankings, this is probably the biggest downfall when you consider a team that's just come down from senior.
Oh, absolutely, and like it's just it's so hard to, when you, like, they lost their first game, and it's just so hard to get it back up and going again. And you'd be hoping the Carrow were county champions probably before you probably weren't even born, I'd say, Paul.
No,
But like, yeah, they have a traditional, strong footballing tradition, produced some brilliant footballers, um, and you would say that Carrow, big, do they? I'm not sure what their playing resources are like at the moment, but like it's a big fall for them, and it's certainly, again, like Killererin, it's not good for Galway football that Carrow find themselves in this position.
yeah, so as Barry was mentioning there, it's Killererin, Kilkerran, Clonberne, Carrow, and Curvin B. So Killererin 16th down 3, Curvin B in 15th down 5 places, Carrow down 2 places in 14th, Kilkerran, Clonberne down 1 place into 13th. Probably feeling the effects, Kilkerran, Clonberne, now of Shane Walsh more so this year compared to last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And they missed Johnny Ryan for a couple of games at the start of it as well, and then they got Liam Boyle back. So, it's a very, very difficult one, and it's just, they found themselves probably in a tough enough group as well, and it just didn't go according to plan for them, and they find themselves now in a very, very sticky predicament. And like, just it's not something you like to comment on too much, because these clubs, this is whatever about being involved in the knockout stages where there's pressure and stress, but that's enjoyable. Like, there will be no enjoyment in these relegation semi-finals. Like, that's just not where any club wants to be.
Just 10th, 11th, and 12th. Gabriel's up 3, Clifton up 3, rescued a victory late on against Curfin B. And Williamstown, terrific win for them, up 6 places. You talk about all those teams who are struggling and in the relegation battle at the minute. The 3 teams, or both of them, are all teams who had positive results to get them out of the relegation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, was it 6 points to 5 St. Gabriel's?
Yeah.
St. Gabriel's by Killererin, so like that's a brilliant win. I'm not sure it'll be enough. Who did Gabriel's play in the preliminary quarterfinal, Paul? I don't know off the top of my head who.
Yeah, I'll just get the draw up here now.
So they more than deserve to be where they are. And as I said, we knew going into this weekend there was a lot of these kind of games where the 2 teams at the bottom played each other, the 2 teams at the top played each other, and St. Gabriel's and Killererin was always going to be a very, very tight one. But you'd have to say that they deserved their win, and they deserve to take their place in the preliminary quarterfinal.
Just on that as well with the intermediate, it's a round robin into relegation.
Okay.
So it'll be the bottom 2 there, just to confirm that. So
they all play each other.
Yeah, they all play each other. That's what happens there. And just on the prelims, it's Micheál Brennan's Williamstown, Corty and Ormore, Brennan's Clifton, and Calfa and Gabriel's. So we just move into the top half of the intermediate. Just from 9 to 6 here, 9th, 14 Shamrocks, 6th, 8th, St. Brendan's, 7th, Ormore Mary, and 6th, Clifton. They all keep their positions here.
Yeah, I don't think anyone. I think the big wins of the weekend came kind of higher up the table with the Elon Arons and stuff like that. I don't think anything kind of stood out to say that any team deserved to really climb the rankings or fall down the table. It was Micheál Brannach's, or Corton didn't do enough, I don't think, to warrant going anywhere up the table. Caltra had a good draw with Monavea Abbey. By all accounts, it could have gone anyway. And I think in the intermediate championship, there's a hair's breadth between all of these teams. Like, I thought Micheál Brannach's were the team to beat. I thought they'd played really well. I thought O'More had been playing really well. But then Kilconnelly did a number on Micheál Brannach's. Kilconnelly did really well, and they'll be delighted with that win. And then Ilan Aaron were, by all accounts, outstanding against O'More and put up a huge win. And Sean Mulcurran's excellent, Patrick O'Donnell excellent. So they deserve to climb the table, but definitely in this intermediate championship, like, it's really, really competitive, and like, it'd be very, very hard.
So wide open from 1 to 8.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would still, to me, I think the winner will still come out of that top 5 somewhere, which isn't narrowing it down completely, but there's going to be shocks along the way because this is so competitive.
Yeah, it looks that way already.
I thought Glenamaddy had a really good win over St. Brendan's as well, because they were,
wasn't going too well for them.
It wasn't looking great for them, and they backed back. And again, those are the sort of wins that they build resilience, they build a good strength among the team, and they're the enjoyable ones. And they will have enjoyed that one. Close rivals and a good battle, and they'll have enjoyed that one last night, and they'll be looking forward to a quarter-final place.
Yeah, just 5th then Micheál Brannach's down to Ilan up 1, Glenamaddy up 1, and then Kilconnelly and Monavea Abbey. Monavea Abbey in 2nd and Kilconnelly in 1st. They maintain their spots from the last edition of the power rankings. But that's all with the senior and intermediate power rankings. We'll be back when the next weekend of action after that will be back, and that'll tell you a lot, because you have the senior knockout stages, and you have the preliminary and intermediate and relegations played too, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But that's all on our show for today.